Welcome back everyone to Formula One Weekly, your weekly news show for Formula One news and Formula 2 news as well. Don't forget that we are back. It's been probably about 3 weeks since the last Formula One Weekly. If you don't know, if you're not aware, big exam season at the moment for me, and so my priorities unfortunately have to be focused around them, which is consequently meant that I've had to strip back on the channel a little bit at the moment, which really bugs me that I've had to do that. But I've got a week off this week, and then next week I've got no exams as well, so hopefully for a fortnight we can get things back on track and moving how they were earlier on in the year. We're nearly at 1.3k subs. When I sort of slowed down to do my exams, we hadn't even quite hit 1k subs, so you guys smashing it at the moment, and thank you as always. Just a little disclaimer at the moment, a really quiet week in the world of Formula One this week. Obviously, the big story, the main story, was the Monaco Grand Prix, a race that I have mentioned before in the past, not on this channel, but in the past, that has really bored me, really disappointed me every year. But this year, I was really looking forward to it. I was really ready for it, to be perfectly honest with you. Really excited for the race, and I think it's one of the best Monaco Grand Prix we've had in quite some time. The reason I want to bring it up first, though, is that something very rare in Formula One has happened this weekend, and that is race criticism from the drivers themselves. Most notably from Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso, two multiple world champions. Both of them saying how boring the race was, not just in the car, but also how much of a bore fest it must have been for the fans to watch it. I really didn't feel like that. And I don't think I've had a go at this man before on the channel, but it's going to happen now. My frustration has come out, and it's the chief writer at BBC for Formula One, Andrew Benson. Now, this man really triggers me sometimes, and this weekend he was agreeing that it was one of the most boring races because the cars were slow. Now, this is something that I would love to know your opinions on, and I don't know if I'm in the minority here or it's just these people who just randomly say stuff to get clicks. So, Andrew Benson and other people have done this in the past. They say that Formula One is more boring when the cars are slow. Now, obviously, you don't want cars going 60 miles an hour, I understand that. But to the naked eye, you can't see the difference between 200 miles an hour, 250 miles an hour. It's very, very different. I know this year in Monaco, yes, the cars were going quicker, but it was about 6 seconds a lap quicker this year. I couldn't see that from the naked eye. You know, they were going quicker than last year's times, and yet the drivers were saying they were too slow, and Andrew Benson was saying that it was a boring race because the cars were slow. It's not something that I think's an issue. I think as long as they look quick, that's cool. I mean, yes, I understand though, you know, on the other side of the coin, that Formula One is supposed to be innovative, pushing the boundaries, technology, but for me, that's not something huge that affects how I view a Grand Prix. So that's something I'd love to know from you guys, what you think about that. I was just really disappointed that he was saying things like that, and Hamilton and Alonso as well didn't have the weekends and the races that they particularly wanted, so that's probably a factor as well. But personally, I quite enjoyed the Monaco Grand Prix, and so I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well. But then, like I say, that was the big main news story this week. We also had the GP2 race. GP2 is fantastic this year. I said it would be. It's not a one-horse race this year, although Lando Norris has been at the top of the standing for pretty much the whole thing, to be perfectly honest with you. But that is not a representation of how it's gone. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me well, that Norris has only won one race this season, and that was the first race of the season in Bahrain. But he's been smashing it. George Russell has been doing really well as well. Jack Aitken, all British drivers, which is great to see. We've also seen Sergio Sette Camara, Norris's teammate, he's been doing as well. Artem Markelov, the young Renault driver, he's been doing well. Nick de Vries, the young McLaren driver. So there's a bit of rivalries there. Markelov and Aitken are both Renault young drivers. Then you've got Norris and de Vries are both McLaren young drivers. So that's a really interesting dynamic to see. And then you've also got the Mercedes young driver of George Russell mixed in there as well. So it's a real great year to watch Formula 2. And Monaco, it was some fantastic racing once again. feature race, the big main event in Formula 2, was won by Artem Markelov. Then the Toro Rosso young driver, Sean Gelael, got a surprise P2. And can you remember this guy? Roberto Merri, ex-Formula 1 driver who didn't complete a full season of Formula 1. So he went back to Formula 2 and he picked up a podium in Monaco. Very strange indeed. Very strange that Merri's still sort of hanging around in Formula 2. Most people get to the age of 25 and move on. Roberto Merri's still there. He's still chilling, so he's having a nice time picking up podiums in Monaco. But then we move on to the second race, and it was the turn of the Ferrari B team. Charouz. I've really struggled to pronounce that all season, and I'm going to again. Charouz, I believe it is called, managed to pick up their first 1-2 ever in the history of Formula 2. They're a brand new team, Charouz, this season. Previously Prima with a sort of Ferrari B team, now it's Charouz. Antonio Fuoco, Leclerc's teammate from last season, picking up the win in the sprint race, followed by Louis Delatraz. On the road, it was Lando Norris who came second, but he had a penalty, which meant he finished in third. Like I say, in the world of Formula 1, that's about it, really, of news this week. Really disappointing. I mean, I've been away, so it's helpful that I haven't had to cover all these big stories, but a little bit disappointing. Something you might have seen on my channel while I've been away is that Felipe Massa will be joining Formula E next season, which is great for Formula E. Obviously, you guys know I'm really trying to push Formula E onto this channel. I almost want it to be a bit of a 50-50 split, to be perfectly honest with you. So, a little bit of announcement today is that I want to change the channel name. Formula 1 reviews, F1 reviews, I love it. I love it because it says what it does on the tin. And, you know, it's straightforward. You don't have to do no faffing around with some random name. You just know what it is. But now we've hit 1K subscribers, which is great, by the way. Cheers for that. I don't know about a change because Formula E, like I said, I want this channel to be a 50-50. 50% Formula 1, 50% Formula E. And I feel the title doesn't represent that. And also the channel icon as well will have to change with the channel name change. But I'm not really too sure what to go with, so I'd love to know your suggestions in the comments section below. I'm thinking at the moment, Formula reviews, just Formula reviews, no, so not F1 reviews, just Formula reviews, but that seems a bit of a mouthful, so I'm still brainstorming ideas a little bit, but I'd love to know your thoughts on that. That would really help me out. Something, you know, I probably should do myself, but if you guys could help me, that would be much appreciated. And just before we go as well, like I said earlier, Daniel Ricciardo winning the Monaco Grand Prix, but that wasn't the only big story in terms of Australians getting big results in the world of motorsport. The Indy 500 was this weekend. That was why my Monaco race review was out a little bit later than usual. Will Power coming home with the victory. The first time ever I've watched Indy 500 all the way through. I've spoken to a few of you guys about watching NASCAR, and this year I thought, well, we've got BT Sport, which in the UK is the channel that it was on. And I thought, you know what? Let's give it a watch. Let's give it a bash. I really enjoyed it. I have seen a few NASCAR races before. It's a long race. I mean, you've got to be mentally prepared for that, especially after a Monaco Grand Prix. Watching Indy 500 is quite something. But I really enjoyed it, and it's something I'd love to do in the future is go and watch Indy live. So, Will Power picking up a great victory there, and it's a bit hard to judge at Indy 500. I was going to do a review, but I don't really have the expertise of it, and although he looked like in the closing stages he could have the win, there were two guys ahead of him that pretty late on decided to come in for fuel, so yeah, like I say, I don't want to bore you with my lack of knowledge for Indy, but I was really impressed with that as well. So I just thought I'd let you guys know. Indy 500 this weekend, a big win for Will Power. A few ex-Formula 1 drivers in there. Takuma Sato, last year's race winner he went out pretty early doors. Max Chilton was getting involved as well. Sebastian Bourdais, he was also in there. You might remember him at Toro Rosso. That was really why I was watching it, and Alexander Rossi, he was there fighting at the top as well. I was sort of hoping Rossi could do something, obviously, because he's a name I knew. But Will Power, he's buzzing about it. And to win the Indy 500, even Fernando Alonso hasn't done that. part of the Triple Crown, as most of you guys will know, so I'm sure the Australian will be very happy with that. But guys, that's the end of Formula 1 Weekly. Thank you for watching it. Thank you for making it to the end, as always. Links in the description down below for my Twitter, Patreon, all sorts of bits and bobs if you fancy checking those out. You don't have to, but it's always there. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.